Neighbor complained to the HOA about my yard. So I have a Karen for a neighbor. She's a grumpy old C with a live-in son in his 40s and no other family or friends. And when I say she's a Karen, we're talking to the point that she came into my property to yell at our landscaper about a boulder he was installing on our property. Something about believing it would fall over onto more of our property. A few months after we moved in, we received a letter from the HOA saying that they'd received complaints and asking that we make sure that we're mowing, watering, and maintaining. I chalked it up into moving into a nicer neighborhood and made an effort to mow twice a week instead of my normal once. Added a little time to the sprinklers and, well, figured it was all good. Apparently, it was not all good, as we received another letter stating that the complaints had continued and the HOA wanted to talk with us to see what the problem was. Now, I should note, we had just moved in not that long ago and hadn't landscaped the back yet, so we were letting our dogs pee on the front at night, which led to the inevitable patches of bright green grass that grows stupid fast. Now, I'll freely admit that I don't keep my yard to the level of some of my neighbors, but it was in perfectly good shape outside of some green spots in an otherwise average-looking yard, and I do my best to keep things mowed and looking decent. Turns out our grumpy C had taken real offense to this and started complaining to the HOA. The hearing ended up being mostly incoherent rambling, but the bottom line was she didn't like how our lawn looked with the green spots. While the HOA agreed this was not her business and definitely not theirs, I decided that she was right and we should stop letting our dogs out in the front to pee, as I also don't like the green spots. Now I put them on the leash and let them do their business in her yard, read tree lawn, and I'm clearly not the only one, as her entire yard is now covered in pee spots and dead spots on her actual lawn, which my dogs don't step on. I'm pretty sure she's complained about everyone with a dog, and now the entire neighborhood takes their dogs to her yard. The best part, she actually does a crappy job taking care of her lawn, weeds and crabgrass everywhere, and she just waters it almost non-stop. So today, I got to report her to the HOA for her yard looking like total crap. If it were any other house, there are much worse, I wouldn't care at all, but this lady wanted lawns without spots, so I'm just doing my part to enforce her rules. And to everyone hating on HOAs, they're hit and miss for sure, but in this case, they didn't do anything but tell me that someone complained, and then tell her that I wasn't violating any rules and that they weren't going to be involved. Also, HOAs are often surprisingly easy to take over. You just have to skip the whining about how terrible they are and do the work instead. If the HOA is that bad, talk to some neighbors, tell them you're going to run for the board, and get them to vote for you, and then help others to do the same. And remember what you hated about the previous board. Be forewarned, everyone finds a reason to complain and no one's willing to help out. For everyone about the green grass from dog pee, urea to ammonium to nitrogen for plants. If you don't water it, it stays concentrated in one area, killing the grass. If you do water it or just spray the spot with the hose quickly, it's diluted and gives the grass a big boost of organic nitrogen fertilizer. This tale takes place over the course of many months and resulted in over 150 layoffs, all to save 22 IT techs from losing their jobs. I learned a long time ago that no one cares about the IT team at our company. They see us as those useless employees always complaining about rules. We're a mortgage company, and those rules are the rules everyone follows to protect customer data privacy and to prevent theft. When your company suddenly loses 2 full payments for a house to some scammer in Nigeria and the FTC has questions for you, then it's time to change your policies. This meant cutting legacy access, revoking unnecessary access, and correctly coding job titles in Active Directory to prevent people from granting their own access. What this boiled down to was a meeting that I phoned into a year ago. This was one of those meetings where I did not need to be there. Budget meetings. In this meeting, the VP over the accounting department played a recording showing times when someone in the IT tech team provided subpar service. She tried using this as reason to fire half of the tech team. The trouble was that all of the people she played recordings of were already fired for giving terrible customer service. These people were replaced by 5-star techs who know what they're doing and give excellent customer service. This started the whole chain of events that led to last week. Since this meeting was every 2 months, VP has tried to use her position and influence to grow her team while shrinking ours. Every budget meeting, I would show up, and VP, who shall hence be referred to as Karen, would target my team. I would pull out the numbers and pull out the logs, showing how my team received a little over 3/4 of that team's call volume. I show how my team of 22 techs personally received more phone calls than every other inbound call employee by more than double the number. I show how, with the call volume we receive, we still maintain a 98% satisfaction rating. At the third budget meeting, the COO had been tired of hearing the same excuses and wanted hard data. He had a point. I was merely throwing out basic numbers without providing real data. Our company was in the middle of a budget crisis, and someone needed to be cut. These budget meetings were basically a way to defend our own department from the chopping block. Karen believed that the best defense was a good offense, and she was right, but not in the way she thought. When it became clear that the IT support team was on the chopping block, Karen starts to have her employees call into the tech center and have them make requests that she knows we can assist with, as that is handled by another company entirely. We're not able to transfer calls to an external line, so the only thing we can do is give the number to call and hang up. The negative CSATs start to flood in after this. Every single call from that team regarding a vendor's password reset gets a negative CSAT. Our approval rating tanked to 72% in one day, and I instantly took action. First, I contact a few of the users on recorded calls and ask them why they called the IT tech team when they know we are not capable of resetting the vendor's password. She replied that she was told it was policy to do that now. I asked why she left a negative satisfaction rating, and she said that those no longer count against the employee, that they're only used for macro metrics. I walked over to Karen's office and walked in. Hey Karen, why are you having your team call mine to reset the vendor's password? Karen looked confused and stated that she did no such thing. She said she will talk to her team and make sure that they call the correct number in the future. The calls did not stop. Now, a few of her team were calling in with personal machines that were not an asset of our company. They were wanting things done which would violate license agreements with Microsoft or Dell. Each of these were refused, and each of these were leaving negative CSAT. It became clear that Karen was trying to tank our stats before the next budget meeting. I let my boss know, and he just gives me a sly smile. The leash is off, sicker. This is an inside joke between us, as I am someone who is very detail-oriented when I'm focused. When you try and get my team fired because you want to grow your useless team, I'm very focused on you now. The first thing I do is enable call recording for every corporate employee as to not arouse her suspicions. Her team did not have call recording enabled because her team handles CDP on a daily basis. I pull a live call and listen in. This is employee with our company. May I have your account number or your name? The customer gives the name. Okay, I have your account pulled up. Are you wanting to make a payment? Customer says yes. Are you authorizing me to go ahead and make the withdrawal from the bank account we have on file? Customer agrees. Okay, payment is processing. You'll be notified in X days when it's complete. Your next due date is this date. The customer thanks her and he hangs up. The entire phone call was 1 minute 22 seconds. Short phone call, so I listened to another. Similar situation. I listen to another and get the same thing. I start seeing a pattern here, so I go through the rapidly building log and see that all of the phone calls are usually less than 1 minute and 20 seconds long. It takes well over an hour before an anomaly occurs, and I see a 5-minute phone call. The customer needed an extension, and the employee was authorized to give her a 30-day extension to avoid a late fee if she would make a double payment next month. The person on the phone agreed. At this point, I also turn on the CSAT for her team only. I expected a largely similar rating as my team. I was not prepared for the nearly instant 50% rating that steadily dropped. My boss comes over to my desk as he was getting the email notifications for the sub 75% CSAT rating and was flabbergasted at the sheer volume of negative reports. It's now clear that there is no choice but to examine this further. I assigned 4 people to review the negative calls from the other team and have them all. The amount of employees being downright rude to customers, not other employees, but paying customers over the phone, was shocking. The negative tones in their voice, the unwillingness to fully answer questions, the extreme lack of empathy, and the shocking lack of mute button use was too much. Then came another shocker. The number of customer-facing employees was ridiculous. 152 employees to handle roughly 30% more calls than my team of 22. I call the CIO. "What do you got for me?" "I have something for you. It's incredibly evil, depressingly accurate, and can probably save the company a ridiculous amount of money." "You know this is the second time you've said those exact words to me, right?" "Yep, but there's something I need to know first. I'm not currently authorized to know it, and I need to request it in a way that would not set off any red flags." "What is that?" "The starting pay scale for all account employees." "Tell me your plan." The next budget meeting was not a budget meeting. It was an IT tech defend yourself meeting. The COO directed it and let Karen speak first. Karen pulled out the same stuff as before, calls upon calls to our group that were cherry-picked, as well as listing off dead zone times when we had people working but no one calling in. Then went on about how they could cut our group in half and hire more account employees to reduce the workflow. Instead of defending myself or my department, I played 4 of the short call recordings from Karen's department. I then pulled up the Excel sheet that was color-coded, showing how many phone calls each account rep received and the length of time they were on, each call, and the customer satisfaction rating. I explained the lack of high CSAT with my own little recording I like to call a failtage. It's a montage of Fail and her team were the stars. Before you ask, I did put music to it. The recording starts off with an employee saying, "Yeah, I guess I can take your payment." Then goes straight into one where another customer accidentally gave the wrong bank account info and said, Don't use that one." The rep responded with, "Jeez, what is the actual account number?" It only got worse from there. This group was unmanaged for so long, they were filled with rude and useless employees. I then showed them a side-by-side comparison of each tech who received a call. I showed how my techs were receiving more than 4 times the number of calls per rep than her team was getting per day. I showed how we were all on the phone for well over 7 times the amount of time that her team was on the phone for, and I demonstrated how each tech had double or triple the satisfaction rating over all of her group. Half the room that was uninterested in the conversation were suddenly interested when I closed out my presentation. In short, I saw no reason to defend the IT team today, as I have successfully done so in every prior meeting. Since the last meeting, however, Karen has crossed the line and has had her team call mine in regards to the things we have no access to. I played the recording of me calling her minion. As you can see here, she directed her team to call mine and to leave bad satisfaction ratings on my guys because of it. I've since deleted those CSATs as they served no purpose whatsoever. I then pulled out my next flowchart. This is a monthly expense taken from the last 9 meetings that our company spends on IT and servicing departments. I look at the COO, who is looking at me intently. Before today, I was on the defensive as I saw no reason to attack another group, but it is clear to me now that my team has a target on its back. That is why I now show you this. It was a graph showing the starting pay scale for each IT and servicing employee code, as well as their average daily workflow. There was one glaring anomaly on this list. Account department had the highest starting pay scale with the least amount of work. So basically, in layman's terms, the account department can be reduced to 1/10 of its current size, and we can reduce the pay scale to a little over 1/2, as this department requires very little in the way of problem solving and critical thinking. I saw a few raised eyebrows, as well as one impressed smile from the CIO. The COO ushers everyone out of the room, except for me, my direct supervisor, and the CIO. He looked at me and said, "Continue. Further, we can cut this department entirely and outsource them instead of IT. Since this group merely takes payments and sometimes allows extensions, we don't have to worry too much about technical ability. Outside of simply using Windows, we can hire high schoolers if we wanted to." This got a laugh from the CIO. Karen was staring through the window with this smug grin on her face the entire time. Now for my final bit of this meeting, I'm going to play 2 cherry-picked phone calls. These are the 2 most technical phone calls that I could find from the last month for both departments. I play a call where a payment fails to process and the rep realizes she typed in the wrong number. I then play a call where it starts out with a user stating that her customer submitted a payment to the wrong CD. The tech breaks out into our procedure to prevent wire fraud. Thanks to the quick action of this tech, we were able to reverse the CD and save this customer from losing their down payment. The final masterful stroke was playing my final card. As you all know, Karen has been coming after my team for months. She has been grinding her axe against us because she, like everyone else, has made the mistake that we are incompetent, inept, and useless to the company. What she did not know was that I have all of the logs showing the truth. The smoke that she had been blowing for years is so thick that it is ridiculous. Her team is highly replaceable, and we both know that my team would require extensive training and effort to replace. The CIO spoke up. With just 30 people, we can outsource her entire department and save the company millions a year. The next time we have a major IT issue, you'll be regretting outsourcing us. He then pointed to the graphs and flowchart brought by both myself and Karen. Her team is useless. The next day, I watched in pure joy as a term request came in for Karen. It came in with the double asterisk indicator at the beginning, meaning this was a stealth term, to be done and coordinated with the person who will inform her of the termination. It's not actually double asterisk, I changed that here to protect identities. Over the next 2 months, the account team was shuttered. First, they came for anyone with disciplinary issues or attendance issues. Then, they laid off anyone who had been there a really long time. Then, the newest employees. The smart ones applied for other positions in the company or left before getting laid off. All the while, the calls for payments were slowly shunted to the call center in India. By the end of last week, we only have 4 domestic accounts people who take escalations that the India call center is not authorized to take. Do I feel guilty about being integral for 148 people being laid off? Yes, quite. But I know it was necessary to keep my job and my health insurance. Without my health insurance, I am a dead man. The entire reason why this happened, though, was because a division was slated to be cut and sent to India from the outset. Thanks to the actions of myself and my direct supervisor, we prevented it from being a sure thing that our team was going to get cut. On top of that, we cut out a festering wound in the company that was slowing it down and costing us money. My team has not been brought up in the budgetary meetings since. HOA Karen demands what I do on my property, but I'm not even in the HOA. Click the video on your screen so you don't miss the crazy fallout of this one, and I'll see you there.